Hello, my people. It's Dahlia.
And Nicole.
And this is Quiche My Ass. We also have Mateo.
Hello.
Hello.
Good to be here.
Good to be here.
So we thought about introducing Mateo to everybody, but turns out he wants to introduce himself.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if I said that, but I can do that.
He didn't say that. He knows how he's going to introduce himself.
and now I'm doing it.
Now
So
you're doing it. Nicole, I told you she digs.
I was listening to the podcast and hearing Dahlia talk about how much she wants to hear from all of the different members of the community. So I really took a moment of reflection to be like, okay, what do I represent in the community? And I think that's the flunkies, the fuck-ups, the people who've been fired, people who do stupid things, because I'm really stupid.
Yeah.
So that's
but
that's
really
it.
quickly.
Like I know
can
you.
elucidate on that.
Really quickly, we actually brought Mateo here to talk about a restaurant opening
That's not important.
that he's doing and what it's like to open a restaurant as a young person in the industry and all of those things. So,
And also coming from a family that
a family
that does run restaurants.
a lineage.
Wow.
I think third generational restaurant runners. So
Wow.
So is there
You're
a place?
Mateo the third then?
Seems like
Okay.
you. Are you really?
No,
Mateo?
no. There's Mateo's. I mean,
She
maybe
didn't
I don't know.
understand
Mateo is Mateo's an uncle of mine, and I'm pretty sure there's another uncle before that named Mateo, but I don't really know.
Uncle? No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding about the fucked up uncle. Everyone has one.
Everyone has one.
My uncle Victor, he is literally like Victor the Seventh. There's like 7 Victors.
That's
like,
funny.
God.
and he has a kid named Victor, and this is really sad, and I don't know. It's weird talking about this side of the family. They're never gonna hear this, but it's all so sad and fucked up. So he had a kid named Victor who died, and then he had another kid
Did he name him Victor?
who he named Victor.
Oh my god!
Yeah, it's really fucking weird. Don't get me started. I mean, I probably talk about all of that, but yeah, it's
Wow.
it's
Wow,
weird.
that's some true crime shit.
Yeah, that's
No.
scary.
Yeah, that's weird.
So, is there a place you'd like to start, or do you want me to dig and ask you questions?
No, I can just start.
Okay, so
Okay,
Let's-
well, it started when you were 14.
Sorry, what was 14? No, let's go back even farther. So
Okay, how old are you?
I'm 26.
Oh, okay, so you're
Yeah. I'm young.
you're young and old at the same time.
It's funny to think. I feel like
Yeah.
COVID has given everyone like, oh right, I'm 2 years older than the beginning of this like weird interregnum. But no, I'll go back before that to like how it begins for my family, or I don't know, this iteration of it. So my dad's mom, Trini, moves to Los Angeles in the 1950s, and she's El Salvadorian, and basically it's a whole complicated thing, but she's fleeing, political violence, and opens up Cafe El Salvador in downtown Los Angeles, which was
Awesome.
still there until like 2019. She didn't
Oh,
run it
wow.
anymore, but like some iteration of it was still
From
there.
the 1950s.
From the 1950s.
That's insane.
Yeah. Pupusas, tacos.
Love that.
1950, America.
can you cook? Can you make us pupusas one day?
I can make pupusas.
Do you have
yeah.
a secret recipe?
No. Pupusas are very easy. I mean,
I've
like,
made them, and I realize
just-
they're not
yeah.
hard, but I just don't want to make them. I'd like to have someone else make them for me.
like every other world cuisine filled doughy thing, from dumplings to
Yeah.
bao to sandwiches, there's no recipe. It's all of those like tiny little techniques. It's the way your hand like interacts with the flour. It's just like stuff. So like I've made pupusas. I think I'm okay with it. At it. Probably Trini, who's passed, probably way better than me, all
Yeah.
things considered. Yeah. But so she opens a restaurant, and then Dad Oscar moves to Santa Cruz, California, which is outside the Bay Area, and he was studying to be a filmmaker, and somehow ends up in the restaurant industry like a lot of people, and ends up opening the Red Room, which is a bar, and then later the Red, which is like a local bar and grill. This is probably 1998.
But they're
when
still
they opened.
open.
They're still open. We're no longer involved, for a while.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Dad's like
So
retired.
he just was like, I'm gonna start owning a restaurant. Is that like he just woke up one day and was like, I'm gonna do this?
No, he managed the White Swan, which was a Chinese restaurant.
Okay.
And I'm sure he started working there being in college. Was serving, and then the Santa Cruz earthquake happens, which is a big thing in local Santa Cruz history, and like half of the buildings in downtown Santa Cruz are destroyed, including the White Swan, and then out of that, somehow he gets the opportunity to open just the Red Room, which is just a bar. I mean, just like a dive bar basically.
Okay.
And then from there, the Red Room and the 515, which doesn't exist anymore, and then Burger Santa Cruz and Burger Aptos, which are like burger beer joints.
Just like naming a bunch of places.
Yeah, no, I mean...
That's a lot of work.
And when he was really in the swing of it, he did all of the payroll, all of the scheduling, all of the menus for like 5
when you say
restaurants.
I can't
owner,
even brush my teeth
Really
twice
quick,
a
when
day.
you say owner, you mean back of house, front of house, all of it?
For him,
What-
all
him?
of it.
All
Yeah,
of it.
all of it. He did all the hiring and firing. He did everything. I mean, also there was someone else not to be named who was his partner in all this.
Okay.
Who there's a falling out and everything. But yeah,
You think we're gonna have one?
No,
Sorry.
we're not going
it's
to
all it's already happened. So I'm starting it. So I grew up in these kitchens. I grew up in these restaurants. Even as a baby. It was like, and it was always. I think the food industry has really grown in just how much it permeates culture. Everybody talks and thinks about food way more than they used to. Americans have slowly but surely figured out how to eat. But as a kid, everyone was like, that's a weird thing for your dad to do for a living. Like everyone was like, my compatriots, my schoolmates were always very weirded out by it. And it was, very special growing up in that kind of environment.
So what's your fondest memory of growing up in like restaurants?
This is a great question. So me and childhood friend Ray, we're in Dad's office. So the Red and the Red Room, which were really the like anchors of the whole thing. We're in a beautiful.
Is that like related to the Red Table at all?
No,
my
I
God.
Just kidding. I'm kidding.
No,
Sorry.
right.
It's
Sorry.
a podcast.
No. It's a podcast style joke. You wouldn't get it.
You wouldn't
You
get
haven't
it.
heard a podcast with Will Smith. Am I remembering this correctly? Yeah.
It's
The Smith
Jada
family.
Smith.
Jada Smith.
It's
Yeah.
not
okay.
Will's, okay?
But he's on it. No. So it's in the Santa Cruz Hotel, which is a historic building in Santa Cruz, and 2/3 of it are my dad's businesses, and then 1/3 of it is Planet Fresh Burritos. And above Planet Fresh Burritos is my dad's office, and sorry,
No, it's okay. It's okay.
I gesticulate a lot, and she's putting me in my place. And in my dad's office, there's a hatch to the roof. So Ray, I was a very nervous child.
So you and your friend Ray.
Yeah, me and my friend Ray. I was a very nervous child. Ray was not, and he was like, "We should go up on the roof." I mean, I'm like 10, and I'm like, "I don't know. I don't think we're supposed to. I don't know. Something bad could happen." And he goes and finds a ladder. This like 10-year-old child. This is like dinner service is on. So
Yeah.
like the kitchen's like a right there.
Your dad doesn't care where you are.
No, my
No,
dad
you're
is.
there.
I don't exist to him.
Yeah.
So Ray finds a ladder, the 10-year-old child carrying a ladder through the dining room to the office, and then he puts it on the hatch, and then we go out there, and we get up on the roof, and, Santa Cruz, even though it's a little town, you can see the stars. So, like, we see all the stars, and it's
Wow,
a beautiful,
beautiful.
wonderful summer night. And then Dad comes into his office, and he's like, "What the fuck are you doing up there? You're going to fucking break your leg." And, is really mad at me. But I don't know. It was just this. That's my earliest fond memory of just, this is something. It was. I was relatively young. It was the first time I was like, "Oh, I'm going off the reservation as a child." It's like, "Oh,
Right.
I'm having my own experience, not being sort of led through hallways as most children are."
And who knew that inside of that restaurant there was a beautiful rooftop you could go?
There's a beautiful, pretty typical rooftop.
Right.
As a kid, even now, I just love seeing spaces. I don't know, even like stupid, like if I ever work at a new restaurant, seeing all the little like, oh, here's the locker room and here's where they, clean the dishes or whatever. I just like little spaces. So as a kid, it was very magical.
What was the one thing you hated about having a parent that worked in the restaurant industry?
I mean, I don't know about hated. Mom also worked a full-time job, so I was a latchkey kid. When I wasn't hanging out at the restaurant, I was just home. And I think that kids are, they are so receptive of their environments, and they are so, I think human brains are meant to like in childhood just be around a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Like human brains developed in these like villages where you're around like 40 people all the time. There's always something going on. So like as a kid, Camila, my older brother's at a swim meet. Leo's a baby, my younger brother. So it felt lonely that both my parents would get home at like 7. And that's, I don't want to say
Which is not that bad.
not that bad, but as a kid, it just feels so.
Yeah,
I live in the suburbs and there's nowhere to go, and it's just,
I was going to say, growing up, one of my best friends, her dad was a chef, actually. And I
Yeah.
remember during sleepovers, he would just come
She's
in.
gonna say a weird story.
No, he would just come home so late. And when I got to be older, my parents would use him as an example. Like, do you really want to be working the hours that Angie's dad was working? And I'm like, what? That never even crossed my mind as a kid. I just thought that was normal. You just work nights, and we were happy to see him because we'd be awake.
Yeah.
Whereas everyone else was asleep. And so it's really interesting how people perceive that. But your dad getting home at 7's not a bad gig.
Probably even later than that. I don't know. I said 7.
Yeah.
But as well, and all chances are they're probably going to listen to this. And I love my parents. Something happened with my dad in the last 5 years where he started somebody sneakily injecting estrogen into him. He's just so much more blissed out and just a nicer person altogether.
Oh, okay.
So when I was a kid, Dad would come home late at night and he would, there would be some dirty dishes in the sink and he'd be like, do you think that Curtis's family has dishes in their sink right now? Going back to
exactly
the same thing. So he would never admit this. I will say this. I think a lot of people would never admit this. Work sucks, and it takes a lot out of you.
Yeah.
And no matter what, you're going to develop coping mechanisms for that. And it's going to be something good or it's going to be something bad. And, you have to live with that eventually. It came out how it came out in him,
Yeah.
Well, he was probably used to yelling at people all day in the restaurant that he didn't know how to separate.
Especially just that generation.
I was about to say, especially back then.
Yeah.
Because he and my mom are involved, and my mom ends up taking a bigger role in the restaurant, in the last couple of years, in the last 10 years. But he's like, I'm so glad I'm not doing this now because I couldn't, because I couldn't treat people the way they need to be treated anymore.
It's so hard to separate yourself. I know sometimes our ghost toast and I have gotten into fights where he's like, you're not at work. I'm not one of your employees. You can't yell at me. I'm like, I didn't mean to yell at you. I don't mean to, but you just get so focused in what you need to be done. But anyways, enough about us. Enough about me.
No, it's
all about you.
Yeah, it's all
so,
about
you.
Can you give us a little forward on you, and then you can take it all the way back?
I can take it all the way back.
Where have you worked here in New York? So maybe we can have people connect with you a bit. And then we'll go back.
I realize I'm like a Brooklyn person. I worked at a couple of restaurants in the city. I worked at Wayla, and I worked at a couple other just Lower East Side restaurants. But really, the restaurants that sorry, I just burped. I'm a human being, baby. Really, the restaurants that I'm like, oh, this is really what made me feel like I'm a New Yorker is I worked at Maison Premier. And I worked at
which is one of my favorite restaurants in Brooklyn.
Yes. Yeah, I mean it's great. I mean,
favorite bars.
They do it amazing. As from a experiential point of view, it's amazing. I mean they do it all. And then I worked at Sunday in Brooklyn, which is also a great place where
I love it. I ate there.
Super cute.
And a few others.
And I worked at Kings County Imperial, Chinese
cute.
restaurant. And what's the other one that I'm forgetting? The other place I used to live in Seattle, Washington. For college, and I worked at How to Cook a Wolf, which is one of Ethan Stoll's restaurants. Probably my favorite restaurant of his.
We looked
New
it up
American.
because we were like,
it's really great stuff.
I asked her, I was like, how would you eat a wolf? And we both said braised.
Well, she said braised. I said, yeah, that sounds good. And then I decided
tartar.
Wolf tartar would be my go-to.
So you should really read, because you're in the food industry, the book that is referencing, How to Cook a Wolf by MFK Fisher. Have you read anything of her work?
No.
So MFK Fisher, I would say early 20th century female food writer, my favorite author, period. She's so amazing. And so, for that time period, just this bolt of lightning of acerbic wit and smarts, and she sort of grows up in Los Angeles and France, and a woman in that time to just have that I don't know, just that ability to see through everything and be so on point. So How to Cook a Wolf is about during the rationing during World War II, how do you use food to not just satiate yourself but satiate your soul? And how do you just take these rations and really make it mean something to yourself? So it's very emotionally charged book, and it's also just an amazing book, and she's an amazing writer, and I love her. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
We're gonna look her up.
Yes.
Working at that restaurant led me to read about her and read her works. The head chef at the time who worked there, I was like, oh, so have you ever read her book? And he's like, no. I know. I was like, come on, man. And it's like literally, it's like on the host stand. There's a copy of it, and it's a small book. You could read it pretty easily.
And he just never picked it up.
He just never picked it up. Yeah, he's like that broad.
So, I'd like to come back to Maison Premiere at some point, but go back. Tell us, why are you a fuck up? What does that even mean? Aren't we all in this restaurant industry?
Aren't we?
Everybody in this restaurant industry has
Dahlia said everybody I worked with is successful, which really rings some bells. You know, something along the lines of that. Of like, I feel like a lot of people I know aren't successful, and I think if I was not very privileged, I probably would not be successful. I'd be like making rent, which I'm totally fine with. But you know, there's a lot of pressure on a lot of people. You don't need to be successful. I'm not trying to cancel you or anything you said. It's just
canceled.
Yeah.
She's
canceled. I'm already canceled. Come on, we don't even have 50 views. Come on. I still think you made it this far. Like, you're 26, you're here drinking a glass of wine on a podcast. Like, how much of a fuck up can you actually be at the moment?
You're all about
a restaurant.
Let me say yes, totally, because I'm very privileged, and also let me say I love the positivity of the sentiment that you're saying of like all of my cohort.
I'm positive. I'm a positive person.
Exactly, and I'd like to. I don't know, because I've been fired from places because I've been
fired.
Things.
I've been fired from a shoe store because they thought I stole $100.
Do you want to talk more about it more? I want to hear about that.
No, I did get fired. It was right before my pre-SATs.
I got fired by my dad.
Wow.
So
that's what
where we came from.
For good reason too. I totally agree with.
What did you do?
Back.
Did you steal?
Would you fire yourself?
So I was a tall child, and I wanted to be. Santa Cruz. I want to be taller. I want to be a baller. Santa Cruz is university town, so there's all these cool college students. So I just wanted to be an adult. I mean, that was like up until like now. I think that's all I wanted was to like be adult. So this bartender, Hannah. It's New Year's Eve.
It's a girl.
No, it's Christmas.
Was it her fault?
No.
Okay.
Oh my God, I feel so bad. And I texted her after all this happened, and I was like, I'm so sorry that happened. She never texted me back, and I never saw her again.
You deserved it.
And she's so cool.
Tell us the story. Tell us the story.
It's Christmas party, so Dad always threw great Christmas parties for the staff. I mean, he'd really do it all out.
That's nice.
And I'm like 16, and I'm like, Hannah, give me a shot of something, and just give me some liquor. Like I've drank before. At this point in my life, I like drinking a lot.
Yeah.
So I was just like, it's a Christmas party. Let me drink. And Hannah's like, she was cool, And she was like, yeah, of course. And then the assistant manager saw Hannah hand me something, And here's the other thing.
I don't know, really.
The West Coast people are fucking insane about serving underage people.
Really?
Oh my God, it's way more than here.
Because in New York, you could be an 8-year-old drinking alcohol.
Oh my God, no,
as long
nobody
as your
cares.
parents are at the table, nobody.
No,
nobody.
not.
Oh my God,
a 16-year-old could go out with their friends and get a drink.
But
they don't ID here.
In California, they send like teenage sheriff's deputies into bars to try and catch owners. And if it happens like once, that's it. I mean, it is a real.
So your dad probably took it seriously for his restaurant, not mainly you drinking.
No, he also had a really weird thing about me doing anything. I mean,
you got fired because you were drinking.
Because I was drinking.
And what was your position at the time?
What was my position at the time? Come on. Yeah, my position was it's not a big deal. And I think part of it.
No, I mean like.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, like
my
restaurant. Not like what
my
posture
position.
were you in when he was yelling at you?
Of course you felt that way. No, but what?
That was my position. Come on, no.
I took it as an answer too.
I realized he didn't understand my question.
I thought
quickly.
It was a pretty funny answer. No, I was a server.
Okay.
Yeah. And in California, if you're underage, you can't serve beer or liquor. I mean,
what states can? New York, New Jersey?
I don't really think in New York and New Jersey you can either, but I think it's just less of a big deal.
You can serve it, but you can't pour it.
You can't pour. Yeah, see, it's just
who's
really watching that? In California, people really are watching that, and they will catch you out on that. So, I only say that to give the context of people really serious about that.
Okay,
and then the assistant manager
at the restaurant.
So he fired you at 16.
Mm-hmm.
And then did you work for him again after that?
Yeah, he rehired me later.
Okay.
They opened
did you ever
opened
get
a new
fired
restaurant.
Again?
No, I never got fired again.
Okay.
From him. I mean, I got fired again at other places for sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I never got fired again from him. Oh,
Are
you know what? That's not true. Well, kind of. So that's not true. I kind of did get fired again. So it's senior year, summer, and like I'm about to leave for college, and it was really emotional. I'm like 18. I was very emotional, and I
had no emotions at 18.
Oh my god. Well, I kept it all in, but I had a lot of emotions. Yeah. So
I don't remember.
So Santa Cruz is maybe like 2 hours from the city, like an hour from the city of San Francisco, and there's just this feeling, you know, everybody's going off to college or doing whatever, and I just felt this great. And at the time, I was working like 6 days a week at the restaurants. I mean, it was like every day.
Was that what you were going to do after high school?
No, I was going to go to college. She wanted me to go to college, which is, you know, great. But so I'm working a ton, working doubles. So I'm so tired, you know, understaffed. And I put in my 2 weeks. I'm like, you know, hey Dad, I want to, you know, take some time to say goodbye to. So I sent him an email. So I want to say goodbye to all my friends. So I sent my dad an email. Hey, just so you know, I'm putting in my 2 weeks. You know, I don't want to be scheduled anymore.
Do you think it was a douchebag move?
I think it was from me.
Yeah.
No.
As a son, you can't just be like, yo.
You know, it's funny. I don't really think I saw him. Okay, I can't let them listen to this. I can't. They're not going to hear about it because I want to dish. I don't think I really saw him a lot at that time. I just think he was really busy, and so was I.
Okay.
And he had, I just don't think I saw him a lot. So it just seemed easier, and it seemed I was also very, as I said, nervous, anxious child, teenager. So the idea of talking to him about it was just like, I just don't want to do that. I just want to send him an email. Send him an email, and then like I get home from work, and he's like, hey, I saw that email. What's that about? I'm going to keep scheduling you. You know, I'm not.
I would do the same thing as a parent.
Yeah.
Don't email me. Email it.
But okay, don't email me. But I'm just gonna keep scheduling you like after your 2 weeks. So I'm like working. I'm running late for work. Oh, and then like this particular day, I'm supposed to come in at noon. And then, like, somebody changes the schedule, so I'm coming in at 10 instead. So I'm, like, rushing out of the house, and I'm running late. And, like, somebody's texting me, where are you? And I was just like, fuck it, you know. And this is after I'd given this is post 2 weeks. I'm not even supposed to be on the fucking schedule.
Post-email, guys.
Post-email. So I literally throw my little flip phone, I just throw it out the window. And I drive to San Francisco and just have a day with, you know, my, like basically the last day I saw all those people all in the same place. And then I get home, and Dad's pissed, and he's like, all my stuff's out in the in the yard, and like you can't stay here. You know, I can't believe I rehired you. They didn't say that, but yeah,
you wanted to say that.
No, I didn't say anything to me. You know, that's just how I was. So that's the second time I got fired. And then I ended up working for them again. When I had come back from college, I would cover here and there. He got over it, you know.
So did I. And so did you, You're like, okay, you got home.
So this can't be what you said you were a fuck up. Like, these things aren't a big deal.
These are big. He emailed his dad.
Okay. Yeah, but when you're 18, like, fine.
All right, well, we'll go through all of it. We're going to do all. It keeps happening.
We've had 18-year-olds just no call, no show. Like,
yeah,
I'm not surprised by that.
Yeah. But here's the thing. Did you see Licorice Pizza, the movie?
No, I want to.
It's really, really good.
It just came out.
Is it new?
He's very you watched it right when it came out.
I've seen it twice.
What?
It's so good.
Where can we watch it?
I don't know. It was in 70mm at the Village East in the city, and it was amazing.
Okay, I'll go watch it.
I would highly recommend it.
Okay.
It's got Gandolfini's son?
No, it's got
pretty indie film.
By the way, that's our ghost host in there.
Yeah.
He's talked already.
Yeah, I know, but they can't see him in the video because he wants to hide.
And if you guys don't watch the video, go on YouTube, please.
Yeah, look us up on YouTube.
P.T. Anderson movie, and it has what's his face's son in it. I can't remember his name right now for some reason. Famous actor.
I'm not good with names.
Anyway,
so what is that movie?
It's about a teenager in LA who's very much a wheel and dealer who wants to be known, wants to be considered older. So that's how I felt like when I saw it. I was like, oh, there I am. So as a even though you're totally right, I'm like, oh, I'm a kid. At that time, I was so about seeming professional, seeming like an adult, seeming cool, seeming like I'm doing.
You sent an email.
I sent an email.
Sorry, I'm just gonna keep saying that. It's gonna be the name of the.
You should understand that I didn't send the email out of professional courtesy.
No,
I sent the email out of being scared about talking to my dad. That was it.
Being a bitch.
Being a little bitch. Yeah. Basically,
I
a
didn't
child.
want to say it, but
no, yeah, definitely.
I'm still scared of my dad, so I'm gonna send him an email.
Yeah. Well, now dad's like a teddy bear, so whatever. But yeah, definitely
via email.
Sorry, I tapped the table, being told not to.
So and then you got fired again in New York. You don't have to talk about that.
Yeah, I got fired again in New York, and So I thought it was pretty silly. I could talk about that too. I never got fired in Seattle.
Good. Wow.
No, but we could. Yeah,
Guys,
thank you.
come on.
Thank you. I got a warning. For coming to work sick.
I was written up 13 times at my
I've
job.
never been fired.
Wow. Let's give a round of applause there.
Or written up.
Or, well, that's not true. One time I did get written up.
Yeah, for drinking.
Yes.
For asking hand to the bartender for a drink at the Christmas party.
She wanted to smell the glass.
Somewhat.
So
I got written up only because
I saw that one time Nicole was bad.
I went to this party and there's like this.
She worked an event.
I worked an event, and it was this very high profile client's house, and they served champagne, and all of the servers were talking about like, this champagne is like $400 a bottle and nobody's drinking it. No one's even looking at it. No one is interested. And I'm like,
completely even there. Yeah.
So all of those are just not going anywhere. And they're like, yeah. And I was like, oh, like.
And they probably tasted it.
Yeah, the servers were each drinking a glass. And I'm like, oh, can I have a taste? Like, just a taste. I wasn't anything else. And they were like, oh, yeah, you know, okay, sure. And they brought me a glass. And I literally, like, didn't even sip it. Like, it didn't even come to me. I never looked at it. I never picked it up. Nothing. It never even made it to the kitchen. I didn't care. I didn't ask. Like, I was like, oh, whatever. It doesn't matter to me. And so the next day, I'm at work, like, cooking, whatever. And my chef comes in screaming at me. You were drinking at work, blah, 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 blah. You were asking the servers for champagne and wine. And I'm like, wait. What are you talking about, first of all? And they're like, last night at the party, the housekeeper heard you. Like, I don't know. It was a big deal. Apparently,
Fuck that housekeeper.
Apparently, whoever was going to bring me a taste of the wine said it was for the chef. And I never got it. So they thought I was drinking on the job when really I never even tasted. It was just a nightmare. It was so dumb. I got written up. I never happened again. And the next time I went to that client's house, the lady, the woman of the house, poured me a glass of wine and drank it with me.
No, who cares? Who cares?
Me and Nicole, I didn't do it, but there was some keg stands going on.
I did at work in the back of a van on the way back from the Hamptons. Oh my god, it was so dangerous. We were not.
That's so dangerous. I didn't do it. I literally said no, and no means no, everyone.
There's a video of me doing that.
There's definitely a video.
And my boss holding the thing, so it doesn't matter. Anyways, back to you.
We can't get in trouble. That was before getting in trouble.
No, we can't get in trouble. Also,
guys, we can't get in trouble.
The most incriminated person is in the photo. And he was above me, so it doesn't matter.
She's just going deep on this one.
Yeah.
I like that it's van keg stands, and you're like, no one had seatbelts on.
I was in the front, so I definitely had one.
No, I didn't have a seatbelt on. We were in the back.
So dangerous.
No, there weren't enough seats for us. Yeah. That's not my fault.
No, there was 3 seats, and then there was the keg in the back, so people hung out in the keg. It wasn't 6 people.
With our boss.
But there weren't servers. It was just...
Anyway, back to you.
Sorry.
So tell us how you're fuck up, because we keep interrupting you.
I'll keep going.
Do it.
You gotta choose a new word to call him.
No, I like it. I mean, it was my word.
You were a troubled person.
I like funky as well. Flunky.
Flunky.
Not funky.
I'm funky.
Flunky, yeah. So in Seattle, I never got fired, but I do think I was a fuck up in new ways. So I was working for Ethan Stoll at a bunch of his restaurants, and basically I described myself at that time as like a teenage alcoholic. Like, so I worked at a restaurant that was at the bottom of a ravine, basically. Like, you know, Seattle's all hills, so it's where 2 hills meet. And what I would do, and I lived at the top of one of the hills, and it was a bitch and a half to walk up that hill late at night, especially if you're drunk. So what I would do is I would park my car at the bottom of the hill.
What?
Get to work.
It's a hill.
And then, yeah.
Okay.
So I park my car at the bottom of the hill, go to work, do my shift, go out drinking after, and I'd get in my car and I'd drive at like 5 miles an hour, you know, shit-faced up my neighborhood back to my house because I didn't want to walk up my hill. So that's and that was like every single shift I would basically do that.
Which is like almost every day.
Like almost every day.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Not good. That's really the only, fuck up behavior that I engage in Seattle. Yeah.
That's bad though.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Drinking
still
and driving is bad.
It's very very bad, especially if you're 19. You should not do it.
You should do it at any age.
Never do it at any age. Not good.
I am very strict on people doing it. Like when I was in college and I saw my friends doing it, I would be like, "Are you serious?
No,
I am
know.
sober. Call me. Like I will drive."
Yeah.
And there was a bus that would take me out. Yeah, I should have called you.
Yeah, you should. We would have found someone.
Yeah.
We are Uber.
Yeah. That's how Uber started.
At that same restaurant, I got mentioned in a Yelp review.
Woo.
Negative?
A 1-star. I got mentioned in good Yelp reviews as well, but in a 1-star. So I was hosting this particular night, and it's Friday night in Ballard, which is like sort of like the West Village in Seattle. And this guy comes in, and we have like a huge reservation book. I mean, there's nobody's getting in who's walking in that night. So this guy comes in, and he's like, hey, table for 4. And I'm like, sorry, we don't have anything. And he's like, what are you talking about? It's like 5:30. The restaurant hasn't filled up yet. Like, there's lots of empty tables. And I'm like, yeah, it's Ballard on a Friday night. It's just crazy over here. And then his review was like, this kid was so flippant, Ballard on a Friday night. People like this are ruining Seattle. Just some, nonsense. Yeah. But it made me, right. I was called out like by name, and it made me feel really,
So
shitty.
what brought you to New York? And how?
So I was in Seattle studying theater to be an actor, and I didn't like it, but I ended up finding my way into doing stand-up comedy there, which I loved. And after doing that for, almost a couple years, Seattle's getting really expensive. My rent
so
doubled.
New York's cheaper.
Well, it's like if I'm going to spend $1,000 in rent and do stand-up comedy, I might as well do that in New York City rather than Seattle, Washington. So I came here to do that. Yeah, that was the beginning. And then as soon as I got here, I knew I needed to find a restaurant gig, and I applied at a bunch of places. And Sunday in Brooklyn took me in Brooklyn. Yeah.
So that was your first restaurant job here at Sunday in Brooklyn.
That was my first restaurant job, I believe so. I mean, there might have been. No, I think that was the first one. Something's going on. There's some background drama.
Yeah.
We are back.
Okay, so really quick, everybody, just so they know, Dahlia had an emergency and she had to go.
She didn't like me.
She wasn't really liking the vibe.
She thought I was stinky, ugly, didn't like me.
Yes.
A fuck up.
And she'll be back. It'll be no problem. It's still going to be a great episode, even though you guys are going to miss your favorite hostess, Dahlia.
She's gone from the podcast forever.
Yeah,
that's how bad this was.
It's just me now. Bye.
I'm taking over.
Okay, so you were telling us about how you got to New York.
Yeah.
Why you got there. Also, I love your shirt.
Thank you.
Can you tell the listeners where that's from? Because I love this restaurant.
Is it Indian Spice Grill, Street Grill? So my girlfriend, Allie, is from the South. She grew up in Tennessee and Florida, and she was just visiting a friend of hers in Atlanta, went to this Indian restaurant, and only had amazing things to say about it, and picked me up this T-shirt, which I like a lot.
Batiwala,
thank you.
And they also own Chai Pani, and I love the owner. Like, Mirwan is amazing. He has taught me so much. He told me that I could be Indian if I wanted to be, based off learning the recipes. He was like, oh, you can join our family. Come, we can take you to India. I'm not going to India, but I love the restaurant. I fully support it. I hope that they listen. I'm going to share this with them because they're the best.
Just based on the little that I saw of it, it seemed like the exact kind of Indian restaurant that I like, which was like good shit, good food. That's it, and I love that.
It's so good.
Okay, I'll go. I'll go to Atlanta.
You have to go.
Yeah.
So this was a gift.
You
haven't actually been there.
I actually haven't been there.
Okay.
Yeah.
One day you need to go.
It's a good looking T-shirt in my opinion.
It's a great T-shirt. It's a great color. I'm jealous that I never got one.
I love like half of my clothes are all restaurant swag, and most restaurant clothes not good. Soft, breathable, good texture, fits me well. Big fan, good design. So haven't been to the restaurant. Love the T-shirt.
Great.
Got to go to the restaurant.
Is there a New York Batiwala?
No, I don't think so.
No, but there's Spicewala. They have an entire spice brand that you can buy all their spice. I could be like a.
You're promoting
I'm a Chai Pani.
I
love them.
They're advertising.
They're paying me.
Nice.
No, I'm just kidding. But they have a whole spice brand of their really, really special spices that are so different from everything else. I've learned all about Indian spices from working with them, and they're incredible people.
So as long as we're just talking about my personal history, the middle school that I went to is linked with Hindu shrine in California.
Oh.
Shrine to Hanuman, god of wind. And it has a yoga center and a yogi. And so, like, lunch was Indian food. You
wow.
know?
That's awesome.
Every day we did an hour of yoga. It was great. Also, its own little insane world. But so I grew up eating a lot of curry. You know, it's just part of the culture. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so you have a lot of food experience.
I have a lot. I've eaten a lot of food in my life.
Yeah, me too. Actually, I think all of us have. So continue on your journey in New York City.
Absolutely. So
you're leaving. You're at Sunday in Brooklyn right now.
So I'm at Sunday in Brooklyn, which I got fired from.
For what?
Well, you know, this is of all the things that I feel like a fuck up for. This is the one where I just feel so. This is the only one that I still kind of feel outraged about. So, you know, I started working there. I think they'd only been open for a couple months. I mean, literally like 2 months or something. And the manager at the time was a real wine guy and still is working in that world. Or the assistant manager was also from Seattle, and I met him when I came in to bring my resume, and he was like, "Oh, you're from Seattle," like that. You know, that opened a door. You know, it was something. So he ends up hiring me, and you know, much like you guys talking about Danielle in some way, it's a big crew. Everybody's young and relatively competitive, and you know, Sunday in Brooklyn is not Danielle level or you know, per se level food or anything. They do amazing for what they do, and it was this entry to a different, you know, I'd always been in like working for my parents or working even in Seattle. It was always just like a different level. It was like, oh, okay, this is the real shit. You know, people take this stuff really seriously. The head chef, who I love, I just remember, you know, they're sending out the whole fish and like they used the wrong butter on it or whatever, and he like really stopped everything and was like, this is specifically why we're using this specific butter, which I made for this dish, you know, in particular. So even outside of the experiential, like, if you respect me, you're going to do this right. And it was just this very, like, this introduction to a different, like, you know, jobs were jobs before. These people really loved what they did. And then, so when they first opened, they went through like general managers really quickly. They went through, I think, 4, you know, in the time that I was there, which is a little bit over a year. And the last one, who I always liked, and I think we got along. I think what actually happened is that the owner was dining one night, and I was giving them the cheese plate, and I said the cheeses that were on the cheese plate last week, and I could kind of hear them, and I heard Adam, and he was like, and he got the cheeses wrong, and then he like said something else, but like that was the one, you know, thing in the list of all the things that I'd fucked up. And so, general manager.
I've only been for brunch, so I didn't realize it was a really serious restaurant for dinner.
I don't want to talk any shit. When they opened, it really was. I went back a couple times ago, and I think that chef kind of he has other projects, so things kind of got a little bit more casual. But when they first opened, it was a really good. I mean, it was amazing. It was amazing food. Like it was something I'd never seen before. You know,
right.
Growing up in the restaurant industry, something I'd never seen before. So anyway, so I get called by the general manager, and he's like, I'm giving you a warning. You got the cheeses on the cheese plate wrong. And then straight up is what he said. Some people have been saying you don't smell very good at work.
Oh my God.
Which, so right now, if you can see me in the video, I'm a little unkempt because I'm stressed out, but I don't really sweat a whole lot. Pretty kempt person, typically speaking. I mean, I would like to say. So I was pretty mad about that. And then there were some other things.
Was it summer?
You know, it was September.
Because summer's hard.
It was September.
It's hot.
It was hot.
Gross.
I don't think the AC. So that restaurant's like 4 stories. You know, it's got like 4 stories of restaurant. And so the second story, I think the AC really worked well. And yeah, maybe I was stinky once. I don't know. I mean, like people are people.
That's actually why Dahlia left.
That's what I said. I know. I said. I was at the gym earlier, so I think I might actually. But sorry. Anyway.
Well, I think you smell great.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And there was some other stupid thing, and I was like, okay. I mean, it was my first restaurant job in New York, and I loved working there. I mean, it was probably one of my favorite jobs I've ever worked. And I was like, yeah, oh yeah. And anyway, I was like, yeah, I was sorry, and I'll, you know. not let that happen. And then I called out sick one day, and then that was basically it.
That was it?
They were like, okay, we're not going to schedule you anymore.
So what happened after? Where'd you go after?
After that, I worked at a lot of places, just trying to find somewhere that I liked, because around that time, I did grow a little bit of a backbone and was like, okay, I'm not just going to put up with anything. So I worked at this Israeli cafe in Williamsburg. I worked at a bunch of restaurants in Williamsburg.
Which cafe?
It's Israeli. I'd have to look up the name. I worked there for like a couple months, and just immediately was like, these people are not serious. Like, they do not know how to run this place. Like, just everything about this, it was just wrong. So I put in my 2 weeks, and then I found myself at Sauvage, which is co-owned by the Maison Premier people. Mm-hmm. So I started working at Sauvage, which is where I met the love of my life, Allie Huggins, my girlfriend. My partner. Whatever. And so I started working at Sauvage, which is also a little bit fucky. You know, it doesn't exist anymore. But generally speaking, was just a relatively good workplace. And so working at Sauvage, I worked at Maison Premier every once in a while. That's really, you know, Thomas asked me for my resume before. I was like, oh yeah, I worked at Maison Premier. I worked at Maison Premier a handful of times, you know, here and there. Yeah, to be clear.
So I think that future state, like I don't know. I would love to have if I was ever in my life going to open a restaurant, which I think I'm leaning more towards a bed and breakfast.
Not an Airbnb, a B&B.
Yeah, sorry,
Airbnb.
No,
bad.
A real true bed and breakfast.
A grounded B&B.
A grounded B&B.
Here in Brooklyn, New York.
Well, the details we're working on.
In
still.
Lisbon, Portugal.
I need the funding. Yeah, well, if Dahlia, I don't know if she wants to be a part of that. That's going to be with my friend Nikki, and that could be anywhere in the world. We haven't decided.
Dahlia mentioned Portugal on an episode. I went to Portugal over the summer. It is the best. You got to go.
Yeah.
Love it to death. I've been to Spain a million times, which I also love. But
her
Portugal,
mom is
all about.
Portuguese, and so
I kind of could tell. I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lisbon's great. Coolest city in the world.
What was I even saying?
I don't know.
I was saying that, if I ever own a restaurant, I want it to be just like
Maison Premier.
I love the limited menu. I love the cocktails. I love the oyster bar. I could eat oysters every day. One of my life, but one day we're going to have a full episode on oysters, and I am not going to share with you guys who, even though I know exactly who it's going to be, really, because they haven't agreed to it yet, but they're going to agree, I'm sure. They will. They have the cutest little tiny oysters, and they have big ones, all kinds. But I would love to work at a place like that so that I could understand their business, so that I can also open a business like that.
But even like a handful of times at Maison Premier, you probably got an idea of what ordering oysters is like.
Oh, absolutely.
On like a daily basis.
Absolutely.
Which is kind of what
I'm doing. Well,
towards.
Yeah, so
yeah, we could talk about that. Yeah.
You have a few more things to tell us before we get where you're going.
Yeah, where I'm going. Yeah, you want to go through the whole? Yeah, let's do the whole timeline. So I work at Sunday. Then I work at Sauvage. Meet Allie. We quit at the same time. Basically, everybody quits all at that restaurant at the same time because a bunch of reasons. And then I find myself working at Kings County Imperial with Thomas, which ignites my love for Chinese food.
Thomas is our ghost host, in case anyone forgot.
Yeah. Hunk of the week, Thomas.
He's here in the video. You got to watch YouTube because Dahlia left. He's filling in her spot. Silent partner.
Thank you for the introduction.
So if, a combo of Seattle and Sauvage and Maison Premier brought me my love of oysters. Working at King's brought me my love of Chinese food. I mean, it really opened me up into something that I had no idea about, and it's probably one of the most diverse cuisines in the world. I mean, it's amazing. I'm a huge fan. Yeah.
Yeah, Kings County is amazing. That's where we got married.
Yep.
We love
beautiful ceremony.
It was amazing. Yeah. Well, that was not at Kings County, but. Yes.
You were not invited.
Sorry you weren't invited.
Thomas at one point said, "Of course you're invited." I'm not offended that I was invited. I don't care. But he had.
Did he say that and then not invite you?
He said that and then he didn't invite me.
Wow.
Which, how easy is it to say that someone's invited to something? Of course, it's no big deal.
Well, we did limit the number of guests because who knows the world we live in.
No, and I'm not.
And you could
I was actually I probably could have, and I was busy that weekend anyway. So
So what about after Kings for you?
So after Kings, not the last shift, but the beginning of the end with King's was the beginning of COVID. I mean, I worked at King's for like a year and a half, and then COVID begins, and from there I was unemployed for a long time. Oh, and then I got cancer. So yeah, that was the next thing. Yeah, so that's not really a job, but that's the next thing that happens in my life.
How is it?
Put that on your resume.
Yeah.
Well, you could.
Yeah.
And people would be like, oh, shit.
Well, it'd be better, if someone's asking, oh, what's in the gap in your resume? It's like, oh, I had cancer, couldn't walk for, all of 2020.
So how did that affect you? And this is something we have not talked about. People, being sick.
Disabilities.
Disabilities. We plan eventually to do a full episode on disabilities in the industry and how it affects people from dining to working in the industry to accessibility, all sorts of things.
I have a friend who'd be a great guest for that, by the way.
Send us their resume.
You'd like it a lot.
I would love to hear about it. We have it on the list. We have a mental board. Now we have a list. But what is it like working in an industry that does not, any kind of ailment you have,
nobody cares.
One, they don't care. But two, it's impossible.
It's impossible.
It's totally impossible.
So the quick rundown is that I had a form of osteosarcoma or bone cancer. And basically, I'm a young person. I don't have like a doctor.
Is there hereditary?
Nope. Just
random.
Just a random, one piece of my DNA is wrong. One piece of the DNA goes this way rather than that way, or whatever. I don't really know this stuff. But so I don't really have a doctor. So I'm working at King's, and also I was working at Dahlia in the city, a Thai restaurant, and my knee starts to hurt, and I'm working, every day, long shifts. Like, it makes sense why your knee would hurt. So I start going to physical therapy. And
my knees hurt too.
My other knee hurts all the time.
Yeah.
All of my limbs and body parts hurt. So I start going to the physical therapist, and he's like, yeah, you probably have a little tear in your meniscus, which is like a part of the knee. And so I'm doing physical therapy, and it kind of helps. And then it kind of helps, and then maybe March or February, it's getting, not better. It's getting worse. And then COVID starts, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to physical therapy anymore. I don't want to be around anybody. I mean, I couldn't. But the knee keeps getting worse and worse. I'm off my feet. It keeps getting worse and worse. And then around July, it gets so bad that you can physically see it. My knee starts bulging out in a way that it wasn't. It was like this much. For people listening, I'm making the 2 inches symbol. 2 inches of flesh coming out of my body where flesh had not come out of before, and it was getting bigger really quickly. So I call the physical therapist, and I show him a picture, and he's like, okay, I'm going to send you to a sports doctor. So I go to the sports doctor, and he sort of examines it, and then he leaves the examination room, shuts the door, but he probably doesn't realize that I can hear him through the door, and he's talking to his companion, and he's like, I've never seen anything like that in my life. I have no idea what's going on with this guy, which is not a good thing to hear. No. So he orders an MRI, and they're like, oh, you have cancer. So the
sports medicine doctor told you had cancer?
No, he sent me. No, you're right. He sent me to a surgeon. He sent me to someone who deals with stuff like that. First, I got an MRI, and then they sent that MRI to, I can't think of the word. Basically, somebody who does surgery.
Orthopedic?
An orthopedic surgeon, thank you. Who really freaked me out. And I ended up not using him for surgery, but was the beginning of it. And then I found a new guy, and then I went into treatment. So during this time, I'm on unemployment. This is 2020. If your job was lost due to COVID, you can go onto unemployment, which is good. But immediately it was the sense of the first thing that doctor, the first orthopedic surgeon I went to said to me was like, we're going to probably remove your leg.
Oh my God.
And you're never going to be able to walk around like you used to again. You're going to lose this part of your leg.
Did they say that preemptively, or was that after a lot of research? I mean, you still have both legs.
I still have both legs.
So
most of both legs.
Not unless you're listening to our YouTube.
Second opinion.
So I basically did. I basically did go get a second opinion. So yeah, he said basically once they knew what was going on, post biopsy, they were like, you're going to go through treatment, but there's a really good chance that we're just going to get rid of the whole shebang. We just don't want to deal with all that. So I was like, well, I should find somebody else. So I went and met somebody else, and he was like, we're going to put you through a similar treatment, but I can basically guarantee that you're going to, keep most of your leg. So then I went through treatment and had the nasty thing taken out, and then a piece of metal and some donor bone and like 12 screws are put in now. Basically now, sorry, go ahead.
Can I ask,
yeah.
Through this entire process, you were working in a restaurant or not, and how was that?
So
how did they treat you? How did they...
I was not, through the first part of the process,
okay.
I was not working in a restaurant. Because through the first part of the process, when I was in treatment, the tumor itself is basically like a water balloon, right? So instead of bone, I have a water balloon. And if that water balloon bursts, say because I'm stepping on it, that would just send cancer all through my body, and I would like die immediately. Like I would just like die a horrific death where my whole body falls apart all at the same time, like melt basically. So at the time when I was going through treatment, I had to be in crutches like 24/7. Like if I'm getting up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom.
They treat you first and then they operate.
So yeah.
Hope that it shrinks it enough to operate properly.
So the second half of 2020, I was in treatment, so I was in crutches the whole time. I mean, it was like literally everywhere I went. If you saw me out in the world, I was in crutches. So that clearly, I considered being like, hey, do you want to find a position for me? But like, if you can't walk, you can't work in a restaurant. There's no position in a restaurant where you can't walk.
But it kind of coincided with restaurants shutting down.
Exactly, which, is lucky, I suppose. I mean, it is.
Relatively.
Yeah. Once I went through surgery, even now, I still have lost a lot of motion, and, I don't want to malign anybody, but for what the things I've done coming back, trying to work again, basically the answer is tough shit, That's all it can be. I don't even hold that against anybody. That is what it is to work in this industry. If you can't do it, that sucks, and you're not going to do it, and like that's it.
That's all there is to it.
It's like when I was working at a restaurant in Seattle, not How to Cook a Wolf. We didn't take breaks, and I pointed out, hey, we have to take breaks. That's the law. And the manager, Victoria, was like, well, nobody here takes breaks, and if you don't like it, you cannot work here. And that's basically it. And so that was the, unfortunately, as someone who's going to become an owner, I hope to not be that callous, but that's just unfortunately how it is for basically everywhere.
I think my breaks at my previous job, I sat on the floor of the basement and scarfed down food as quickly as I could. That was
something.
If I was lucky.
And that was a privilege.
That was if I had time.
Yeah, exactly.
And it wasn't every day.
Yeah.
Wow. So are you cancer free now?
I'm cancer free. Well, and I gotta get basically tested like every
6 months.
Every 3 months. Yeah.
3.
Yeah. I got to go in specifically because they're worried that it spread to my lungs. So I just have to get my lungs checked like all the time.
Oh God, with COVID, that is like
I know, right?
The worst possible scenario.
As everybody said, it's like, what sucks about this era is if I feel sick a little bit, like, who knows what that is. And that's like exactly how I feel. Like, oh, I can't breathe as deep as yesterday. Is something going on in my lungs? And then, no, it's been fine. Yeah.
That's good to hear.
Thank you.
So, sorry to change the subject.
No, don't be sorry.
What now?
Well,
did you work somewhere else between now and then?
I went back to King's, and I did this and that here and there, but not really. And then, the beginning of what I'm opening now, I mean, it really started in the beginning of 2021. I mean, that's basically when I started really thinking about it, that was even before I went back to King's. So this opening the new bar has been basically the project for the last year. So yeah, that's basically what I've been focusing on. And luckily, I mean, I obviously have to go places, walk around the city, but it's not as intense as bartending or serving or anything.
So tell the listeners where you're opening your bar.
Mm-hmm.
I know, because I'm excited. Well, maybe not because we're moving, but
no
tell
way.
me.
What are you talking about?
Like February. But tell me.
Fuck off. It's at 492 Nostrand. It's in Bed-Stuy. It's 2 blocks away from the Nostrand AC.
It's a 5-minute walk from our apartment where we are now, which is sad that we're moving.
And we were supposed to be open January 1st, but because of COVID and everything, we're kind of pushing that back.
And what's the name?
Bad Luck.
And it used to be a coffee shop.
So it used to be Zabka Coffee,
Yeah.
and it was really beautiful interior.
Oh, I love that space.
So I don't know if you have much to change. I'm sure you do.
Well, we have to put it. I mean, I want
to make a kitchen.
I have to make a whole kitchen. So there's a whole kitchen in there now,
Yeah.
and it's its own little room. But aside from that, and there's a whole bar in there now.
Okay, so when you are opening a restaurant, and I think a lot of listeners, they're like, "Oh, the dream is opening a restaurant," right? Do you have a chef? Do you have a social media manager? Like, what is your process? Do you have partners? What are you doing?
So it's a very small space. It's a focused menu. I'm the chef. I'm the social media manager. I'm the bar manager. I'm probably going to bartend. I'm definitely going to bartend. I'm definitely going to bus tables. I have a couple people lined up to do like kitchen managing, but it's really my menu of food and
Can you tell us the
else.
menu?
Yeah, totally. I mean, basically what the menu will be. Yeah,
can you
I can go
invite
through the
me
whole
and I'll do a taste testing of your menu and give you honest opinions?
Do you want to do a live recording of an episode in the space?
I'm fine with that.
All for during a service.
Well, not during service. It's too many people touching their glasses.
I mean, just give a warning, like, hey, the audio on this episode's a little fucked, but this is what you should do. You should take the mics to Frenchette and do a live reaction to everything that you eat.
I have
I'm
not
serious.
been to Frenchette yet.
Yeah.
I will go. It's on my list. But okay, so
Anyway,
what's the menu?
yeah.
Just show up for your reservation with some mics.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. What are they gonna do?
I'm just gonna set up real fast.
Yeah. So yeah, what's the menu? So this is a bar with a little food menu. I don't want to sell it any more than that. Go ahead.
That's what I would love to do, though.
Exactly. So food menu: olives, fries, little salad. I'm thinking bitter greens. Watercress, nice classic French vinaigrette. Some seasonal veggies in there.
Some nuts.
Some hazelnuts.
Yeah.
Some goat cheese, maybe. Maybe that.
Cheese is yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
but hazelnuts.
Nuts, right?
Nuts, some sort. Oysters. I do. I've been making this roasted pork for years and years, so I'm gonna do it here and do a roasted pork sandwich with a nice bread, pickled red onions, classic, cheese board. I think that's basically it. I mean, that's all the big stuff.
But that's really nice. It's like you get a little bit. You touch on everything. You get fresh. You get pork. You get salad. You get fried,
seafood. You get fried. Yeah, exactly.
That's nice.
Yeah.
How are you deciding on your oysters? What's your oyster situation like? And do you have experience with seafood and oysters and back of house experience? How can you pull this off?
A friend of mine is going to do the kitchen managing aspect of it, and he has a ton of experience. He's worked in every restaurant in the world, in the city. So in the world. So he knows what he's doing. And I have personal experience of shucking oysters and stuff, but no, I don't have experience. Actually, I will admit, I could not be a head chef anywhere.
So you have a professional chef.
He's a professional chef. He's in a limited role because he's done with like chefing full time, but he's going to make sure it all runs smooth. Basically like a consultant.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you need another consultant, maybe
like
something
a
out.
taste tester.
Taste tester is my profession actually these days.
I think we might have an open role for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Well,
it's an intern job. Yeah.
How do you like to dress your oysters?
I was just reading something. Someone was like, "Oh, I'm an oyster minimalist. All I like on it is some mignonette," which I thought was a very silly thing to say because oyster minimalist is nothing on it.
Is nothing at all,
in my opinion.
or a lemon.
Right, exactly. Even then, I'm like, so part of me is like oyster minimalist, but then I also really got turned on to cocktail sauce recently, and honestly, it's delicious. Big fan. I can drink it by the bucket. Put that stuff on my oysters. So I want one or the other.
Actually, on my way here, talking to Thomas on the phone, I was like, maybe for Munchbox we should get a bunch of different cocktail sauces. And it's funny that you said that, but I didn't get any cocktail sauces because I was like, we can't just taste cocktail sauce without oysters. You can't eat it without shrimp. Like otherwise, it just tastes like ketchup and horseradish.
Which is very tasty, but you need something.
You need something.
And if there had, if you can't tell, this whole interview is very spur of the moment. If there had been more time, I would have brought some oysters and shucked them for you. We would have done a whole tasting.
We wanted to do that, but it's a lot, and we want to do a whole oyster segment, so we don't want to ruin.
We don't want to exactly. And I'm sure there's people who know more about it than me. I love oysters. I'm not any kind of
I have
expert.
an oyster farmer in mind.
Nice.
But not to say you don't know anything about oysters.
No, that's what you said, and that's fine.
Yeah. But there are people who know more. Just
No,
like
absolutely.
Okay, so what about the bar program?
Bar program, as I said, this is a bar. I have my cocktails that I like. I'm not going to reveal them on here, but, my
No.
cocktails that I like. No, I'm not going to.
But the food menu's fine.
Food menu's fine.
Why?
What do you mean?
Why is it fine to tell the menu but not the bar
Ooh,
menu?
I understand.
I'm sorry, I'm just
Record
asking.
I'll be honest. I was trying to play it cool, but
Yeah.
I'm
But
still,
the bar is more important.
It's more important. I'm still tinkering with it. So I don't want to say
Okay.
anything which I don't feel, solid on yet.
Well, what about the recipes?
What do you, the
For
rest
the kitchen.
For the kitchen. You want me to go through the
No,
entire...
but do you have recipes
Oh,
for
yeah,
that?
yeah, for sure.
They're all typed up? You
They're
want
all
me to
typed
edit
up.
them? You need help?
No, I mean it's all things that I make like myself. Yeah.
Okay,
It's
cool.
it's like olives don't need any kind of recipe. Fries are pretty straightforward. The roasted pork is something I made forever. Oysters, watercress salad, it's pretty adjustable for the season and everything.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy to test cocktails with you.
Oh,
Yeah, I
sorry,
mean, that will
little,
have to be done.
Our little cat host is in here enjoying our
Chovy.
anchovy. Chovies is here to speak her mind. Okay, so we've talked a lot. We talked a bit about Munchbox, so maybe we should move into our Munchbox
Maybe it's
segment.
time.
Maybe it's time.
Let's do it.
Munchbox.
Okay, so as you guys know, Munchbox, our segment, today, Mateo bought Munchbox
I brought
with him.
Munchbox, yeah.
He said it's not quite a truffle bread, but let's talk about it. What did you bring and why?
So I had little time, but I wanted to bring something, the business is me, so really I'm promoting me. So we're not serving this, but what do I feel like represents me? And I think that, in the new world of food media, which is a gigantic industry, thrift is not appreciated. Thrift, reasonability, I don't know the right word for it, but just, reliability in the things you buy. So I have to eat a lot now, to try and maintain my weight, which I lost due to cancer treatment. And one of the things that I really enjoy is just tuna pate. So this is $3.99 can of tuna pate from the grocery
Is it called
store.
tuna pate?
Yes.
Or is it?
It is not. It's not tuna fish. This is nicer. I also like
it
tuna
nicer?
fish. It is nicer. It's not tuna fish.
What's the brand?
I'd have to look at the box.
Okay.
It's a nice brand.
I've never heard of tuna pate. Like, I eat tuna fish. I like jarred tuna fish.
I love tuna
canned
fish.
seafood. I like canned clams. Like,
Yeah.
I'm fine with it. I've never heard of.
This is tuna pate. It's got a little tuna on the box. It's great stuff. I also have some pickles that I very just like. This is just
You pickle
quickly
these.
like put salt on them.
It's
not even pickle.
Cat food.
Vinegar
No.
or just salt?
Just salt.
The tuna pate is not cat food.
Okay. Nice.
Just a little crisp green
I like salt.
and some lemon and some bread. This whole thing, probably a lot of nutrients in it. I don't know. I'm not a doctor or a scientist of any kind, but whole thing probably costs like $5.
Okay.
Maybe a little too salty. I'll say that now.
I love salt.
Okay, good. I'm digging in.
Okay, so
Salty, yes.
yeah, but I love salt.
Yeah.
So we have bread. We have tuna pate. Did you add anything to the tuna?
Olive oil, salt, and pepper.
Okay. Your salty cucumbers, which are delicious, and a squeeze of lemon.
And squeeze a lemon. And this is the other thing is I think Americans don't know how to snack. I think most American snacks are sugar. And so, just figure out how to snack in a real way.
And the olive oil is from one of our guests,
From
Estelle, Strega Provisions.
Estelle, and the label for it is made by Extra Bitters, who's also a friend of mine, Small World.
Wow, that's maybe we need him.
Oh, he's great. You'd love him. He just had a kid.
Okay, so I squeezed the lemon. I got the tuna pate. I bet my cats would be jealous.
When I opened it, I was like, oh, they can probably smell that.
That's probably why they came running.
I'm really hungry, but that's very tasty in my opinion.
So this isn't something you would serve at the restaurant,
I mean,
or is it?
No, probably not. This is something that I would eat.
Have you heard of the bar on the Lower East Side that serves canned seafood?
I have.
Have you been?
I have not, but I would go. Maybe we would serve this. I don't know. I'll do whatever I want. My business.
Yeah. Okay. This is pretty good.
That's all I want to hear.
Where did you buy this canned tuna pate from?
There's a little boutique grocery store in my neighborhood called Green Grape, which I do.
I love the Green Grape.
It's a little expensive. Love that place. I mean, everything they have there is great.
They have really great cheese selection.
Cured meats.
It's gonna be a Green Grape commercial.
No, seriously, I love that place.
Cheese selection.
You go there like once or twice a week.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, it's
I
a
love
great
it.
place.
A great fruit and vegetable selection where it's like specialty items every season. Citrus.
Beer, also excellent. As you said, citrus. Also underappreciated, excellent ice cream aisle. Big fan.
And their yogurt aisle.
The yogurt.
But they have a great butcher, great seafood. I love the Green Grape. The great wine shop.
I could do a whole I haven't been in there. I could do a whole episode reviewing New York City grocery stores. I love grocery stores. I got a lot of opinions on them. We'll talk. Yeah.
I would love to have the owner of the Green Grape come. Also, yeah, when I was working as a private chef, I used them all the time. The butcher, the seafood. Interesting. They also have a really great canned octopus. Mm-hmm. That's really good. Like, you just add capers and lemon juice, and it's amazing.
I almost grabbed that.
Really?
Yeah.
That's funny. Because, like, while it's expensive, it's still cheaper than takeout. Mm-hmm. And maybe, I mean, it's pretty nutritional. Mm-hmm. Salt level is high as usual, as all takeout. If you listen to our past podcast on the dietitian, with our dietitian, you would know, but I don't know. So, yeah, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, I would buy cured meats, cheeses, beer, and seasonal vegetables from them. Those are the good things to get there, for sure. Everything else is great too, but those are the things it's like, that's where you should get that, because they have things that other people don't have. So it's like, that's why I go there.
Yeah, whenever I needed a couple dinners, I needed Epoisse, which is like a French cheese that's difficult to find. You can't find it at Whole Foods. Maybe you can find it at Murray's Cheese, but they always had it. They were always prepared. I loved it. So let's get back to you a little bit. I love that you share this pate with us. My cats might like it too. Can you round out your story?
Absolutely.
Tell us the ending, because I don't think there was ever like a real low of being a fuck up. And I'd like to hear that. And then I want to hear more about your restaurant.
I mean, drunk driving was pretty bad. You know, it was just in the middle, but you know, it does feel low. But I guess what I was, I think that the reality is that the restaurant industry is so big, and it's worth noting that not everybody in it is always going to be having a stellar time for all sorts of reasons. You know, personal, whatever. And I don't think that I'm the biggest fuck up in the world or anything, but you know, those traumas or whatever you want to call them, they're with me. I mean, they'll always be with me. You were saying earlier you've never been fired from somewhere, which is great. I don't know. It's that doesn't, I don't think it means anything cosmic or anything, but like, I don't know. I personally feel like I have to own the decisions I've made, and I can't sit around feeling bad about them forever. So just like, to some degree, I'm rambling, but it's solidarity with those other people who make stupid decisions at work. People make stupid decisions. It happens. Everybody, I think, in our generation feels a lot of pressure to be not only successful, but like loving their life at all times. And fucked up shit happens. And sometimes it's your fault. That's okay.
And it's okay to accept that and move forward. Exactly.
And you got to move forward. You can't spend too much time on this shit. Personally.
And I think most of us would relate more with what you're saying than with Nicole's never been fired.
Have you been fired?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, he shit his pants.
Well, yeah. I managed a Papa John's and shit. No, I managed a Papa John's and got fired because my employees were smoking weed.
And you were also probably smoking weed.
I was not. I resent that comment. No, I was 19 years old, though, and in charge of a Papa John's. What do you expect from me?
Yeah.
That's awesome. I've never heard that before.
But that is the only time I got fired from a job. And then immediately after, I got hired at Domino's and got caught smoking weed on the job.
But, okay, I'll say this as well. One of my I wasn't fired at this job, but it didn't work out. I quit someone down the line in the experience of it falling apart was like, oh, and I felt wronged. I whatever. I still feel wronged. What am I going to do about it? Nothing. But somebody said to me like, oh, I don't hold grudges, so don't worry. Don't worry too much about it. But me, Mateo, I hold grudges. If you and me were on a life raft and you were, jumping to the life raft, I'd push you off. Okay? I hold grudges forever because you wronged me. That's how I feel. And it's important to own that and have the self-respect to say that you hate somebody. I think
it's principle.
Yeah, exactly.
Note to self: don't wrong Mateo. Okay. I say okay a lot. I just realized that. But let's talk about your endeavor.
Yeah.
Have you always wanted to own a bar or a restaurant?
No.
Does your dad feel proud that you're following in his footsteps?
No.
Does your dad have any part in this restaurant whatsoever?
Yes. So, Dad was always like, and going back to how I feel about growing up with him and him feeling stressed out working in the restaurant industry, he was always like, to some degree did not want me to live the life that he had lived. So this was definitely never what he, thought for me. And I was always, like a lot of people, the restaurant industry was a way to make a paycheck for me. And everything kind of came together in the right time where I was like, oh, I suddenly felt a lot more passionate about this. And the money that's needed for this is available. And, it's all just sort of coalescing. So it's to some degree, being...
How did you make this budget?
Let me say this one thing. Sorry. Let me ramble more. To some degree, at first when we were talking about this, because my parents are my investors, I was a little bit, I didn't want to do it, because I thought it was embarrassing, right? And at some point in my life, probably after getting cancer, I was like, I'm never going to not do something because I think it's embarrassing. Like, that's not a legitimate excuse to do anything anymore. Yeah. So I was like, fine, just do it. It's an opportunity. Who
Cancer
cares?
kind of like give you like a push of like,
fuck it. Just do it. Oh, for sure. I mean, it really sobered me up.
What are you waiting for?
What am I waiting for? Who cares? Like everybody in New York has family connections or, whatever. It's all about connections here. So like, I don't feel any guilt towards it anymore. But, and the budget, I mean, at the end of the day, there was a set amount of money. I knew I wasn't going to use all of that for sure. Like a lot of that is really just theirs, but it's what gets it over the line. I mean, we're doing it pretty bare bones. I'll say that. It's just enough of what we need to do. So yeah.
And what is the liquor license process like?
Oh, right. So the liquor license process begins by applying to the liquor board. But what we did before that most people do, you don't have to do this, is talk to the community board, which is both...
Oh, I thought you had to do that.
You don't have to, but like you really should.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Their opinion matters.
Their opinion matters. And the community board in Bed-Stuy is, Bed-Stuy is a collection of people who are very politically active. I mean, it is a real, strong institution, which is great. And so the first thing was presenting to them to make sure that, we have their blessing. And from there...
and was that easy to get or not really? Did you feel like welcome or did you feel like you got their blessing or no?
It was, it's so interesting meeting people, having been, a worker and now being something of an owner. People just treat you so differently. And so I don't know if I would not say it's welcoming or unwelcoming, but the onus was on me to prove myself as to be someone who cares about this community and not just, here to reap excessive profits or anything. That was definitely my responsibility, to be like, look, it's me. I'm here. I'm going to be here every day.
I live here and I work here.
I live here and I work here. My employees live here and they're going to work here and they're going to contribute to this local economy and we're going to do it right. I mean, we're not shitheads, in my opinion. I would hope so. And so... Not anymore, right? Well, deep down, no. Not in that way. And so, yeah, I mean, that was it. It's just, and it really, when it comes down to it, it's meeting people. And it's meeting people and it's seeing them as they are and what they need and what they need to hear from you, which is a learned skill. It's not something that comes naturally to everybody to sort of approach members of a community who feel a lot of ownership over that space, which is completely correct. and be like, I know you don't know me, but please, open your heart a little bit to, basically a stranger. And people have done that for me. So
what is your dream for this bad luck?
Bad luck.
For bad luck.
My dream for bad luck. I'd like to get a play. I listen to the podcast quite a bit.
Quiche My Ass podcast?
The Quiche My Ass podcast.
Okay,
Have you heard of it?
No, not really.
And I believe Ian asked you and Dahlia, where do you see yourselves in 5 years? And you two had great answers. But when I think of my business, I'm like, I just hope we're like, doing all right. That's why I'm a very reasonable expectation of my future.
There's a large percentage of businesses that fail within the first year.
Absolutely. And
how do you plan on being different?
To me, what I love in a bar is a sense of place, a sense of, here's what it is. Recently, if you're listening to this from the future, there's been a surge in COVID recently here in the city. And right before the surge, or sort of as the surge is happening, I was out with a bunch of friends. And it was originally supposed to be just like a little get together, but it ended up being this big thing. And basically the vibe from everybody was like, nobody has any fucking idea what's going on, but we want to go somewhere. We want to have a drink. We want to just be with each other. And so that's basically the kind of space that I want to be able to nurture, is somewhere that is reliable and of the community. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing everything with us.
Thanks for having me. This was very fun.
I'm sure that in the future we will talk more about taste testings that we do.
You're going to do a live episode from
It's possible.
the bar at Bad Luck. I'm serious.
We are going to definitely share your opening, definitely share your story. Anything you want us to share on our Instagram, we will do it. But above all else, sorry. I want to thank you for just talking and connecting with the people in the industry who haven't made it yet, and letting them know that it's okay. That it's okay to make mistakes. And even though I said I've never quit or never been fired, I've made my mistakes. But it's really nice because so many people here, they come and they talk about the dream, right? And you talk about how there is this dream and you are doing it and living it and breathing it, but there was so much more before that.
And
for all of us, we just don't all talk about it.
Don't let anybody tell you that you're supposed to love everything you do. Work sucks. It takes something from you. And that's okay. It's what everybody has to do.
I don't know. I don't hate my job yet.
Well, they say discipline is learning to love doing things that aren't fun to do. Or that's not the quote, but...
something like that.
Look,
it's a complex relationship. Like everything, you have to be able to... that's great. Power to you. Personally, I have to be able to, look at that and be like, look... I don't want to be standing up making drinks right now. I want to be sitting down drinking a drink. I mean, that's just it for a lot of people. For me in particular, for everybody. Positivity is also very nice. Don't let me be some negative person. Yeah. We have to find a good cap to this episode. I'm sorry. I'm ruining the ending.
No, I think positivity is important.
I'm drinking too much.
It's okay. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, we don't have Dahlia to wrap this up for us.
Exactly.
Right. We're a little bit lost. No, I feel good about it. I think that the listeners, there's a lot to take away from here. I think everyone's excited about your opening. Any opening in Bed-Stuy is exciting, in my opinion. Sometimes they do great, but the space you're working in, the pandemic hit them hard, and they were only open for a year.
It has a bit of a history, so you know, maybe it's going to be a mess. I'm going to do everything I can for it not to be a mess. Sometimes things are messes.
We're going to find out.
Yeah.
And we're going to find out together, and we will be here. So I want to thank... Do you have something to say?
No.
Okay. Sorry. I want to thank all of our listeners. I want to thank you, Mateo. I want to thank...
Thank you for having me.
Dahlia for leaving, so I have to wrap it up.
Bye-bye, Dahlia.
Thanks, Dolls. And I hope that everyone listens to Quiche My Ass. I hope everybody had a great holiday. And
you can follow us at Quiche My Ass Pod on Instagram. Also on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere you get your podcasts.
Wow, he's hired. Yeah, thank you guys. You can quiche our asses.